Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Dealmaker series. Today, I'm joined by Klent Selz. He is the Regional Market Manager for Amerisource Business Capital. Klent, thank you for joining us. Tell us about yourself and tell us about the firm.
Yeah, thanks for having me, James. So I'm the regional market manager for DFW, and Amerisource is a private direct lender. We're based out of Houston. We also have an equity arm, so we do some equity co-investment alongside our debt facilities, and we fund debt primarily through an ABL platform, but we have some other structures as well. So we fund businesses all over the United States and Canada, and I'm basically charged with developing that market here in DFW, North Texas, and Oklahoma.
Awesome. And what size clients do you typically service? Is there a range on that?
Yeah, so debt facilities we typically fund 1 to 30 million, and then on the equity side, we do minority co-investment. So we don't want to be the main player in the deal. We'd rather find a private equity fund or a client that's looking to make an acquisition that may need a small equity piece, and those check sizes are anywhere between 500,000 and can go up to 2 million.
Awesome. Awesome. We got a good range on there. Well, let's get right to it then. What are you seeing as far as the current state of deal flow? Are you moving up in deal count? Or are you moving down or sideways?
Yeah, so we're moving up in deal count. It's getting to that weird time of the year where the people who think they can close by the end of the year are rushing to get it done, and everyone else is kind of putting everything off until next year. So it's that weird kind of limbo that we're going to be in until January 1. But we've been staying pretty busy. Again, we fund all over the United States, so we're not limited just here to Texas, and we have 6 or 7 other sales guys covering every corner of the U.S. So we've been staying pretty busy, but again, it's just half of them are rushing to get finished, and then half of them are tapping the brakes. It feels like.
Yep, I get that. Have you seen any sort of noticeable uptick or downtick in the year?
Yeah, the second part of this year has been noticeably more busy for us, and I think a lot of that had to do with the effects of the tariffs finally kicked in. Interest rates dropped a little bit, and everybody's kind of settling down from the election busyness and finding their place and continuing on with their deals that they had planned at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm picking up as well from other folks. Is this second half of the year has been noticeably busier, so hopefully that'll continue. Are there any particular deal structures you're seeing a lot more of now in this quarter, or maybe in the second half of the year?
We're seeing quite a few targeted acquisitions, and that may just be by virtue of the part of the year, like we said. There were tariffs and the election nonsense that happened. Everybody kind of gets nervous and doesn't want to make a move, and then all of a sudden they want to hurry up and push through everything. So we've seen quite a bit of acquisition. We've also seen with the large bank mergers. There's been 4 or 5 major regional banks here in Texas that have been acquired by out of state bank holding companies. And so we've seen some companies there that have had a banking relationship previously and have wanted to move or been forced to move to a direct lending relationship.
Yeah. There definitely has been a pickup in acquisitions and mergers in the banking sector. I've seen that as well. Are there any industries or sectors that you are finding most active for you guys?
We're seeing a lot of deal flow in industrials and kind of blue collar type industry or businesses where, like an electrical contractor or a plumbing contractor. I think on the electrical side, a lot of that is due to the big AI push, and everybody wants to get ahead of the curve and, be in that space before it takes off even more than it already has. And then
Yep.
I think too that a lot of folks are seeing that there's a ton of value in these blue collar type businesses, that if you can get in and I guess modernize them, for lack of a better term, that there's a lot of value to be had.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely been something I've picked up from folks I've interviewed this year, and just being in and around industry last year too. Is a lot of the blue collar service firms are looking to get acquired or rolled up by PE and such.
Yep.
So that's an interesting observation there. And you're seeing more of that activity, you're saying, this year, or I guess in the second half of this year?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that pick up. And I think, again, going back to the tariff topic, a lot of that came from, people didn't know if they were going to experience tariffs within their business, especially when you talk about electrical or plumbing, where there's those non-ferrous metals that, a lot of that supply comes from overseas and specifically China. They didn't know
Yeah.
what the effect of that was going to be. And now that everything's, I guess, settled down relative to recent months, they're starting to see the, the effects that they were going to see. They've kind of settled down, I guess is a better way of saying that.
That actually swings in my next question too, which was, are there any elements that are impacting deals right now? So the tariff situation that's been on people's minds in your target spaces. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the tariffs have been a hot topic all year, and a lot of it I think is just confusion about, people didn't know if they were going to be affected by a tariff or not. And so deals that may could have closed Q2 or even in Q3, some of them got put on hold because of the uncertainty surrounding
Mhm.
that. And another thing that we've seen is, again, with these large bank mergers, these out of state banks coming in and buying guys up, we've seen a lot of movement from that. Just some of those banks have different appetites, or they may be concentrated in other areas, or have a higher concentration outside of the state, and they don't want to bring that inside of the state. And so they're either looking to add or get rid of some of the construction businesses or oil and gas, things like that.
What about on the interest rate conversation? Has that been impacting deals, do you think?
Yeah, it's had an impact on us. We're a direct lender. We're not a bank, so we compete sometimes against banks. And when they can go and offer a lower rate, it's more competition for us. So we have to get creative on availability and terms and things like that. But it's definitely had an impact.
Is that right? What about and now at the time of this discussion, they've just cut rates for the second time this year, last week. What impacts are you thinking that's gonna deliver for you guys? Or if they continue to lower into the end of this year, what impact do you think might you see?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with the overall GDP numbers and everything coming out. That we're not real sure where the economy is going to go, and so with the interest rates being cut, it hasn't really set in yet because it just recently happened, like you said. But I think maybe Q1 of next year, Q2, we're really going to see the impact from that, where banks may have a little more appetite to take on some loans that they wouldn't have taken on, a few months back, or vice versa. The businesses may go in and wrap up a deal with the bank because the funding is cheaper now. But I think that'll be something to keep an eye on, especially beginning part of next year.
Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays out.
Hopefully it will spur business like some folks are saying. So what about our market here in DFW? Are you seeing any particular business being done here in DFW or in Texas? Are you seeing more money flow in versus out? Or how are we kind of positioned uniquely against other markets, would you say?
Yeah, so we're seeing a ton of money flow into the state of Texas. And I think part of that is just by virtue of geography. I mean, we have some of the largest ports in the United States here, which is nothing new, but it's certainly something that a lot of other states don't have to offer. We have land, sea, and airports that are all among the nation's largest. And I think people are starting to realize too that the legal environment here favors business. It's a lot better in a lot of instances to be incorporated here and to do business here where you get treated more fairly than it is in some of the coastal states where there might be more stringent regulations. Our governor has made a point to say, hey, we want to make it as easy as possible to do business here. And the word is definitely out on that.
Yep.
And we also have a very robust economy here as well. So there's a lot of businesses moving in, but there's also a lot of businesses that are starting here and growing. And I think that'll continue well into next year and probably on from there.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. Do you think that the more recent establishment of the stock exchange might have anything to do with that, or like might, increase more businesses being launched here? Do you think? Are you hearing anything around that?
I do, yeah, and I've got to be careful what I say on that. But I think especially once they start listing businesses from Texas on that, I think the initial plan is that they're going to just transfer listings that are already public in New York. But towards the latter part of next year, when they start allowing companies to IPO out of the exchange here in Texas, I think you're going to see a huge shift, and it's going to become a real economic driver for us.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking myself too. All right, so let's take out the crystal ball here on the last question and look into the future as best we can. What shifts do you see coming next in the deal making space?
Yeah, I think you're going to continue to see these roll ups within the blue collar type industries, plumbing, HVAC, electric. And I think too, once you see crude prices start to jump up a little bit, which, right now, what are we, 55, $60 a barrel on crude? I think once crude prices start to jump back up, especially with the new infrastructure that's going in, you're going to see a lot of activity in that space, a lot of new drilling, and then obviously the support companies that come along with that.
Is that probably reflection of AI and data center construction, or something else that you think will drive that?
On the industrial side, like the blue collar type businesses, especially electrical contractors, I think the AI is definitely going to drive that because the requirements, the physical requirements of those data centers is so large. And then in terms of energy, I don't know what impact that's going to have on the overall energy market, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it had a positive impact, especially here. Again, I don't know what super well educated on the energy requirements of data centers and AI infrastructure, but I know it's large and I know they require a lot of energy. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a big uptick in that if they continue to build out this infrastructure like they are.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. I think we'll probably get that pretty big uptick as well. Clint, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the insights. This is great. Those of you watching, I hope you find this as insightful as I do. You find more episodes from the Dealmaker series on my YouTube channel and on my LinkedIn. Clint, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you, James. Enjoyed it.